What'd you say?
Ready.
Okay.
No,
No, we don't have anybody in the room yet, but they'll start filtering themselves in the next couple of minutes. So I don't want to do introductions before we do have some people in the room. Hello. I can't see the chat, you guys. So hi, all. So as you guys are coming in this virtual space, I just want you guys to know that I have Black Belt Talk here with me. I have Manu Tomorrow here with me, and we're going to be engaging in a conversation about prostitution and pornography, if it should be legal or not. You guys probably know my opinion on it, so I'm going to let my guest start with what he thinks about the topic. And if we have time and everybody's comfortable with it, if we're not on too long, maybe we can address some things that you guys are saying in the chat. We'll have to wait and see. So I guess we're going to go ahead and get into just the opening kind of ideas, and then we'll get into the more interesting, juicy stuff as he and I go back and forth. So would you mind explaining, I'm guessing that I'm just guessing, that you probably think it is a good idea for prostitution and pornography to be legal, and what the basis for feeling that is?
Yes, I mean I've lived in Rotterdam for a year, which is in Amsterdam, part of 3 countries, and I've also lived in Germany for 3 years. And so those are the places that do have prostitution, and the places in the United States which don't. Of course, I grew up here all my life, so I do know the kind of balance of how women act over there versus how they act over here, and why it's very important for prostitution to be legal everywhere.
That's interesting. You say it's very important. Why is it important?
I mean, it is important because women can kind of get their needs met every way. I mean, they don't even have to work to get their needs met. So what prostitution does, it evens the playing field, so men can get their needs met as well, in the same way that women get their needs met for free. Except for men, they pay to get their needs met. But within societies that don't, if you do not have that, then women get to kind of game the system and kind of get to pick and choose from lots of men, and they end up not really putting out as much as they be getting in return. So I have lived in those societies, and men act very different in those societies versus how they act here.
How do they act?
Yeah, they're just not really like, okay, let's just talk black men because we're black people. Like, there is no group of people over there that act all strung out like black men are in the United States. Like, there ain't that many, for lack of a better word, call them simps here. They're nothing but male feminists who think that if they put themselves in a female mindset within a male culture, that somehow, that by doing this, somehow they get some sort of favor, which they do not. They just are nothing but free labor whenever they do this. Over there, since you can be able to pay to have sex, there's really no reason to cater towards a woman's point of view from a male mindset. That just doesn't even come into play in those environments.
Can you explain to me the difference between what men need and what women need, and what a male mindset is and what a female mindset is?
Well, I mean, but what men need is access to some of those Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs. It's just that sex needs to be reliable, needs to be part of that. And I personally don't think that men should have access to reliable sex in exchange for marriage. I think that is an incredibly bad idea. I don't I don't understand how making those sort of risks for the type of minimal reward that you would have within that environment, I don't see how that benefits men at all.
And what about women's needs? What is it that they need?
I mean, women just need resources. They don't care how they get them, apparently, in this society, but that's what they want. But it's just that they don't want to really work or even compete for them. They just hide behind the weakest men possible and available to get their goals actually solved.
So, so you feel men and women do need resources, but that women don't want to work for those resources. And so that's why they enter into marriages, and that men enter into marriages for access to regular sex.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the most part.
Can you tell me, like, what are the women like in those countries, and how are the attitudes towards women in those countries?
Well, I mean, there's a clear demarcation point between promiscuous women, possible promiscuous women, and women who are actually in the field of prostitution. Here in America, they're kind of all one and the same. But over there, like when I was in Germany or in Rotterdam, I mean, to actually separate themselves from the pack, they actually had to prove something to men that they were far different than most women that you would find out in society. Here in America, it's kind of the other way around. You have to prove yourself to women, which I think is incredibly bad for everyone overall. Because if you have access to 30 forms of birth control and somehow you still end up pregnant, and somehow everybody seems to want to blame men for everything that happens, because people in any society blame the particular power who has the least amount of power to defend themselves. And in America, it always falls on the man. In other countries where prostitution is legal, it's kind of like an even kind of sway.
So, you were also talking about how men have to look at things from kind of a woman's mindset, and because they have to do that in order to get access to a woman for regular sex. And so, I guess my question is, what does that look like? Like, can you give me an example of something that would change versus, if you were looking at it from a male mindset, or a man considering looking at something from a female's mindset? Can you give me an example of that in action?
Yeah, I mean, like an action in the United States, there never would have been a time period where women would actually be having all these dudes in the friend zone. There would be no need for that in an actual society to where you can have regular access to sex. It's a even transfer up front. So you don't have to worry about you being led along or led astray. You get the actual output of what you're trying to get in. And in the sort of society that we have here, you have to give all that out, and the woman gets to choose whether or not she gets to transfer that on the other end. So that's what I mean. So men get the actual output for what they think that they're going to get in other societies where prostitution is legal, where here you get to give all this output and you can get nothing out of it. And you can even get married, and even if nothing is even your fault, and you can still have a downfall for it. So if those people in those societies where those things are just not readily available, it does lead them to be set up to be led astray for the possible idea of sex rather than actually having it.
Do you see any way that prostitution ties into pornography, or do you think we should speak about those as two separate issues?
I mean, like when I was overseas, pornography wasn't an issue. Like I said, it was kind of like before pornography, everybody was watching these pageants to see beautiful women. Like if you were able to have access to women, you wouldn't need pornography or pageants. You just wouldn't. You would be able to have access to what you actually want on a one-to-one basis.
So you're actually saying that the conversation about pornography really only comes into play when there are actual women that a man can have access to readily, because pornography is essentially like a digital version of having access to women.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what it is. I mean,
Okay.
I don't see it any different. Like nobody really watches like porn. Like, I mean, you know, they have statistics on it, and most of the porn is watched in areas like Utah and the South, because there's less access to sex in those kind of highly religious areas versus everywhere else in the country. But that's just what you have.
How are male and female relations in the areas that you've been where prostitution is legal? How are women viewed, and what are male female interactions like? Are they respectful? Are women like, what light are women viewed in?
No, I mean, like in those societies, women have to bring more to the table other than sex, because men, where prostitution is legal, they can get sex readily and easily. It's just that if you're going to be able to build a family, and the woman has to prove that she is not something that you can just go pay, you know, 40, 50 marks in Germany down the street that they can go get. Like, they have to bring a lot to the table.
Well, what about like non-sexual, non-relational, intimate relational relationships, like just interacting with women in the general public and things like that?
No, I mean, it would be the same. It's just that there's no veneer of respectability behind why men and women get together. If your intentions are honest as a man, you know, if you actually wanted to court a woman properly, you wouldn't need to be led astray, possibly, in those societies where sex is readily available.
I will give you that studies uniformly show that sexual violence against women is actually lower in places where prostitution is legal. So I think that that's worth mentioning. But I do have a couple of concerns, and I just want to pose them to you and get your opinion on those topics. One thing is just a simple question of, should human beings be for sale? I know that people's talents could be for sale. Like, if you're a carpenter, if you're a coder, if you're a builder, if you're providing actual labor, like a cashier. But should a person's literal body be for sale? Do you think there are any ethical concerns there?
None whatsoever. It should all be for sale.
So you think that men and women should equally be prostitutes?
Yes.
Okay. And then my other question is, what about the mental health of the women involved? Studies show pretty uniformly that women that engage in prostitution suffer from depression, fatigue, frustration. They typically have some sort of substance abuse problem. When they come out of the field of prostitution, these are willing prostitutes, not people that are sex trafficked. They often have post-traumatic stress symptoms. They often report incidents of abuse during their trade. This is also in places, and this particular study that I'm citing was done in a country that does have legal prostitution. It also says that they have higher stress response. So what about the effect on the prostitute? Obviously, there's going to be some percentage of women who aren't going to be affected by this, although that's hard for me to believe as a woman having engaged in sex. Just as somebody's wife, I couldn't imagine doing that with hundreds of people over time. But for that percentage of women where it is actually very damaging mentally to them, do you think that that should be a consideration when you're considering legalizing or not legalizing prostitution?
No, because life is an actual choice.
So there used to be, and I'm sure you're aware of this, sharecropping. And sharecropping essentially was outlawed because it took advantage of the labor of the poor. These people were very poor, couldn't produce their own land, so they would essentially, I'm sure you do, I don't have to explain sharecropping to you, right? I'm sure you already know, but for the people in the chat who may not be aware, if a poor person couldn't have land, it would essentially be like peonage. So you could till the land, work the land, you would have a plot that you could have on somebody who owned a farm's land, and at the end of the year, you turn in the crop or you sell the crop, and you would either pay them for usury, or they would give you a percentage of what was left after expenses were taken out. And it essentially kept people in a perpetual sort of slavery that they really didn't have a choice in, because they could never really exit it. They didn't have a lot of other options. So the argument a lot of people would make is that for a woman that doesn't have a lot of options, what she does have is her body. And so prostitution, if it's legal, would provide an outlet for her to be able to take care of herself and her family if she had a family. But that essentially it's similar to things like sharecropping, which is exploitation of somebody who's in a compromised position. Do you think that should take any, should that be in consideration when you're thinking about legalizing prostitution?
Well, not at all. I mean, my great grandfather was a sharecropper, and we lived on the land in Mississippi, where I'm from. So it's different. These people are choosing to go into this life. Like sharecropping was something that was made up from the actual government down. While legalized prostitution give people the option of whether or not they want to participate in this life or not. So if you look at places like, for example, like Thailand or maybe even the Philippines, I guess that would almost be something that's comparable versus a place like Europe or even Amsterdam. I mean, that's just the difference. Like in those places like the Philippines and like Thailand, that's the only thing most women can do. And it's like usually accepted everywhere that they can do that for money, you know. But it isn't like enforced from the government. But my family didn't have a choice but to sharecrop. That's what they had to do in Mississippi.
Do
Like they
you
were slaves before, and then they had to sharecrop their way into buying the land from under the person who they were sharecropping from. So they didn't have a choice, but there are choices versus non-choices, and this kind of gets muddied depending on what actual place that you're talking about.
So then you're saying that in some places, and I think the Philippines is a really good example, which is known for being a hub for people who want to go and engage, or Thailand also engage women for sex. We know that those places are rife with abuse of women, and also women being sold, even though it's legal in a lot of areas where women are and children are young women. And sometimes boys, I think, with the Thailand, because they also like the lady boys and things like that, where then human beings are being sold because there's a benefit to selling them to people who have brothels and things like that. Do you think that prostitution is something that can be implemented uniformly throughout the world, or do you think that it's only not as easily exploited for abuse as in those examples in the Western world, such as America or parts of Europe, where society lives a more comfortable life on the whole?
I mean, it could be implemented, but we know that most women don't want it to be implemented because because most women don't want to compete for men, period. And it doesn't matter what they bring to the table. They think that the actual access to sex is enough for people to actually engage in these type of things that is such a sliding scale against their best interest. So what the legalized prostitution would do is it would actually make women step their game up And if you're not an actual person who would engage in such things like that, like the Twitter and the Instagram people with what do you call it? Booking information, that sort of thing. You can kind of separate yourself from the pack by like, this is what I bring to the table other than actual sex.
Well, I think that's something obviously that both men and women should do anyway. But I will tell you my concern. I'm going to screen share a photograph because my concern is less about the schematics of it, right? I don't necessarily, from a moral standpoint, agree with it because I just think that women are dehumanized a lot already in society. And I look at places like the examples we talked about where women are literally second-class citizens, not the Western world version of second-class citizens. And I really worry that it would create an attitude toward women that women are like a piece of meat, literally. And what I was going to share is here in the Western world, we have Hustler magazine, and they're known for doing pictures of degrading pictures of women. I can only show this one picture because the other ones are so vile. There's one where a woman is being sledgehammered with an actual sledgehammer in her vagina. The one I'm about to show is a woman being put into a meat grinder. And these are sort of the extremes mentally and what feminists, and I'm not a feminist, but what fuels the feminist argument that porn, sex trafficking and things like that are indicative of a deep-seated hatred for women that men have. I don't believe that men have a deep-seated hatred for women, but I do think that things like what I'm about to show you and the people that are watching, I do think that pornography and prostitution do dehumanize women to a point where images like this are considered acceptable because it is concurrent with the psyche of the individual that is viewing them or using those services. So I'm just going to share that, and then I would like to get your feedback just on the human aspect, because I guess that is my major concern. It's just the humanity of it all, not necessarily the schematics. So let me just share my screen with you. So I don't know if you guys can see that. I hope you can. So this is Hustler magazine, and as you can see, it's a woman. She is coming through the meat grinder. They're making a joke that we will no longer hang women up like pieces of meat. And so as a man, is there ever a concern for your female counterparts that that you run the possibility of turning a whole, like half of the human race into a literal commodity instead of a person?
But you already have done that through no fault divorce. You've already turned men into exactly what you just described.
So you're saying that the current system and because mind you, I do disagree that the laws are bad. But I also think that every man that goes into a divorce court isn't innocent of doing anything wrong. And every man doesn't have intentions on taking care of, let's say, his children or things like that. Like some men are just bad, just like some women are just bad. So I think to a degree, we can't say every time a man gets a bad rap in divorce court, he didn't deserve it. But I do think for those men who don't deserve it, that's very unfair. Do you think that that's really equal access to a person's assets through court to turning a literal human being in their body into a commodity? Do you think those things are equivalent and equally inappropriate, or do you think one is appropriate and one is not appropriate?
Yeah, one is appropriate and one isn't.
So
what that woman did, what that woman did in that photograph, she was not forced to be in that photograph. She wanted to be in that photograph. She signed a whole bunch of paperwork, a whole bunch of waivers and everything else to be in that actual thing that was going to be presented to the entire world. So when you talk about all men are not innocent, but the
All
court
women
systems are waiting.
who are not innocent. I want to make that equal.
Okay, but despite innocent or guilt, the court system is weighted towards women, no matter what. It's weighted towards women. I mean, if you listen to the O'Shea Duke Jackson interview I did, I think last week, about a 27-year-old friend of mine who really just got into it with just a very vile and bad human being, he suffered the consequences as if he was meant to go through it. Nobody really came up to that guy and tried to show him any type of remorse. We have a system that is just weighted towards women. And it's not the same as the photo that you just described. That woman chose to go into that life. She chose that. She signed waivers in order for her to be able to be in that picture. That's very different from a guy who, when he adopted kids and signed his house over because, he was a Christian guy, and that guy just got pretty much destroyed by the criminal justice system, even though he was purely the victim. I mean, this is what we run into here. This is why I want prostitution to be legal. So that way, when men and women get to share resources, it's for a common goal. Not so that way a person can just have access to sex and then turn around for his access. He can really lose a lot or everything and it not even be his fault in most cases.
So, well, I don't know that I could say most cases even, right? Because the person telling the story, be that the man or the woman, is always going to want to make it look like they got shafted. So we can't ever know for sure who truly is at fault. And I would argue that in situations, not just divorce, where things go wrong, almost always both parties play a part in the fault. It's never 100% anybody. We normally both contribute to that. There are just very few innocent parties in life. Although I will say that it does happen. I'll acquiesce to that. Um, I am curious when we talk about pornography and the sex industry in general. Do you think it strains male and female relations? And do you think it fuels the feminist agenda? Because the feminists would argue that men, deep down, they hate women. There's actually a feminist who wrote an entire book on the sex industry, pornography in particular. And she is an ardent feminist, and she argued that these mediums are examples of how much men hate women. And it is the hatred for women exemplified, and it indicates how men truly feel about women. Do you think that that's accurate?
No, I don't. No, I do not. Because, like I said, these are choices. I mean, you're making it sound like for somebody to engage in BDSM is somehow some sort of thing that is involuntary when it's totally voluntary. Period. Like like I understand that you want to try to make it seem like that it's not so bad, but the evidence is weighted towards people who gets away with more than the other. We don't have a 50-50 system here. There is no anything. Like when someone commits fraud on a certain level, the U.S. Marshals are involved. If it's a man doing this to a woman, it is not the same when a woman does XYZ towards a man. And we know that, and the laws are weighted as much. I mean, do you have a law enforcement background?
No, sir.
Yeah, I do though. I do federal and also in the civilian side. So that's what I'm speaking towards. The things that I've seen and the cases that I've testified to. It's not nowhere anywhere near the point of being equal. And that's why I would like for that to happen so that way people could bring their actual intentions to the situation and have them codified in law versus what they can get away with because of the way the law sits and where it stands.
So your argument is that men overwhelmingly are marrying women for access to their bodies and not necessarily because they care for the woman as a full human package. But that if they have access to just the bodies of women for money, then in the event that they do get married, it will be because they are the type of man that views a woman for her full package. Is that what you're saying? So women who do get married would actually be advantaged by this?
No, it's just that I think you're a little bit misrepresenting what I'm saying. Like, what I'm saying is that men actually care about results. Women do not care about results. Within this society that we are in, they're compelled to misrepresent whenever they want to, whenever it's beneficial to them, things so that way they can get more out of the situation than it deems. I mean, I responded to so many places where women would actually take a guy out to dinner, knowing that this guy has knowing that she has a protection order against the guy just to get him locked up. How many times that I've seen women actually go to jail in reverse? The answer is it never happens. But they actually do it against the guy right after they get like a mercy. Do you understand how most protection order systems work?
Multiple protection order? Do you mean that when the parties have protection orders against each other?
No. I'm talking about emergency protection
Oh,
orders.
emergency. Yeah, you don't appear before a judge. You just get one that exists for like 7 days or something, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but for the most part, you interrupt a court proceeding. Well, you do in Colorado. You interrupt a court proceeding. You go in, you get the actual protection order. You interrupt whatever case is going on at the time. You get to claim that your life is in danger, blah, 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 blah. And bam, you get a protection order. That person doesn't even have the opportunity to even know that he has a protection order against him. And so you call the woman in question. We'll call the guy over, and that guy would immediately go to jail for violating a protection order. This guy can get locked up, miss time from work, all this kind of stuff. And before it comes out in the wash, it never goes actually on this record, but this guy has lost a week of time out of his life for these type of things to happen. And I know it just ain't happening in Colorado. It happens a lot more other places than that. So these are the actual things that are actually happening in these type of situations. It isn't just cut and dry as you try to make it look that men won't access the women's bodies. Like, no, men actually come in with the actual intent of finishing this thing, and women just get to walk away whenever they want to. You can see the divorce numbers. Who actually initiates the divorce? It's most likely not the man. Like 80% of the time, it's women. So you have a 1 in 5 chance of actually doing the divorce, but when the laws are weighted in one party's favor, it doesn't matter who actually initiates it. The actual benefit is going to be for the woman no matter what happens or how egregious things are.
So
And that's just what I'm after, just stopping or even mitigating.
So I do want to ask you something that I just was thinking of as you were speaking, but I would ask you, do you think that not all of those divorces, obviously, but some of those divorces were initiated by the woman for good cause?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want people to go through abuse. I mean, that's not what I'm saying.
Something going on that really was irreconcilable, and so that at least let's say, because I don't think, like, I know women that have been married and I know some women that have been divorced, and I know very few women who just were like, I didn't like him. Normally there was like he kept cheating, or he had a baby out of wedlock, or maybe they fought a lot. Maybe she hit him, he hit her. That's normally what I hear people getting divorces for. I personally haven't heard, this guy was just wonderful and never did anything wrong, and then a woman just chooses to divorce him, especially if, maybe if he was super rich. But see, most people don't have a lot of assets to take. Do you know what I mean? And so, and I know you said yes. I guess my next question would be, do you think that people in the Black community, women in the Black community will be more adversely affected than white women or other women if prostitution is legalized? And the reason I think about this is because when I hear about Amsterdam, you mentioned Germany, European countries that are predominantly white that have prostitution, the facade is pretty nice. Do you know what I mean? Like the whorehouses are nice. What you described doesn't sound super negative. But when I think about countries that are not white, it's a very vile situation with prostitution. It's nothing like it is in the white countries. So do you think that it is something that works with the women of the world who are upheld as the most valuable, but that it would be very damaging to Black women if prostitution were legalized, just based on that anecdotal evidence of the difference of how prostitution legalized looks in white countries versus non-white countries?
But you're making general jumps based on how Black women would be affected. They need to feel the effects of prostitution being legalized in this country, for how much they've been abusing the hell out of Black men over the past 40 years. They need to feel that. Yeah, because this vaginal keep away scheme and the abusing men and the actual choosing guys who are just worthless and then depending on those guys to defend them from everything else. I just think that we need a hard reset for this thing. I know how these things work in other countries and how men view women, but Black women don't actually like Black men like that in the United States because of where we're sitting. And they actually think that for some reason that we all to try to quote unquote buy them out of their hatred from us by providing them everything. But I just think that personally that they've abused their station as Black women in society and that they need to face an actual refocusing of the actual issue here, because we can't have the obesity rate where it is. We can't have the out of child wedlock rate the way it is and actually think that men are actually valued in society. If you ask most women, a guy with a PhD and who is actually decently raised, that dude doesn't appeal to anybody in America. And I'm not saying that it should, but I'm just saying that if you expect those resources out of that guy, no matter what he has accomplished, while you give nothing but expired goods to the table, I think that that's something that needs to be resurfaced and kind of reimagined.
So would you say that a woman that is a housewife is bringing nothing to the table but sex?
That's not what I said.
No, I know. That's why I'm asking. I'm just asking. That question just made me think of it.
Yeah, but that's just not what I said.
No,
There are a lot
okay,
of housewives. Like my mom was a housewife to my dad, and she did incredibly well. She didn't decide to go get a degree, decide to put herself in her knees before the actual household. So to try to compare a person who would be from my mother's generation to the women who we have to deal with, well, I don't deal with, but most men who have to deal with now, it would be just incredibly disingenuous to think that those people are the same thing. And it's very much to think that those people who actually engage in those things, they don't operate the same now. They just really don't.
So I would be in agreement with you on some points. I have a video called Weaponizing Your Vagina, and it talks about how the weaponization that women have engaged in with their vaginas, holding it out kind of like a carrot, you know what I mean? has caused our dehumanization. And that's kind of what you're saying right now. And then you said we need a hard reset on this. My question, and I also agree with you, I want to say that women should bring something to the table. I definitely came from a family where the women were expected to be educated. They could even run businesses. Normally they would be encouraged to run businesses, although some of them did other things, like daycares or, catering companies or interior design, things like that, things that they could do and still run a household. But with that said, we were also taught to cook and sew and, how to be in submission and all of that. So I do agree with you that there's a difference between what is culturally acceptable from a woman now, which is often some women just even can't just cook a meal, and what was some time ago. So I do agree that there's more value. And somebody asked me that question the other day, like, what do you consider to be a valuable woman? I think that was asked on my last, a couple live streams ago. And I listed, or no, O'Shea asked me last night. What am I saying? O'Shea asked me last night when I was on his show. And so I gave a list, and I'm sure you're probably in agreement probably with the list that I gave at the time, if you heard it. So would you say so then would it be fair to say that you're saying that being a housewife is not necessarily that the woman's only bringing sex to the table, but then, like, as you were saying, when you have women that really have no other skill but to be attractive and have sex, then that really is all they're bringing to the table? Is that what you're saying? And you feel that the latter woman is the more common woman that we have in the community today?
No, it's just that women want to be housewives after they didn't wrecked and ruined and destroyed their actual physical being. Like there was none of this from these women who were 17, 18 years old about how they wanted to be a housewife. They want to be a housewife after they hit 30 plus.
So do you think that people should be chaste before marriage?
Could you define that word?
Should not have sex, because in that case, if there's no access to sex, then the woman that the man is getting is not used up. She's brand new, so to speak.
Well, all right. Well, I don't think either way this term would even apply if women had the actual respect of men in society. It doesn't really matter what her level of quote unquote experience would be, but it's just that women expect a lot more out of men on the later half of their life because they got to enjoy their life fully. And then they want the kind of gold jacket NFL retirement dick whenever they kind of want to retire and want to settle down. It's just that they don't have this type of upbringing until they have nothing left to like offer. Like there was none of this black love bullshit when people were 18 or 19 years old. People were trying to have as much fun as they actually could. This black love thing was something that's pretty new, and it doesn't involve black men at all. It's all about black women being happy. I've been in so many groups where there was just posting like even Serena Williams with this black love nonsense. It's just that nobody cares about what the black man wants, and they just want us to be able to just settle for anything, which I think is incredibly wrong and disingenuous. And that's why I strongly urge people to travel and go other places so that way they can see how women actually treat men versus how men are forced to deal with women within these environments here in the United States.
And that is, I find that to be interesting, because I would argue that women should not have sex with men, period. I wouldn't argue for prostitution. I would say the reset button would be that women don't have sex with men at all, and that they be raised in a way that is appropriate so that they can bring a full package to the table when they get married. And then the man would get a woman that is not used up, right? And is capable of running a home properly. And that would also be another way to get, value back to women and get men in a situation where they are not taking on a woman who's lived the fullest of her life, as you were saying, and is not as valuable as, a person why would the former that I just described not be preferable to simply having women being prostitutes, selling their body? If the goal is essentially to make sure that when men do engage women, they're getting the best possible women. Because what I described would also achieve that, right?
Well, let me kind of redefine what we're both talking about here, just using my own personal experience.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to have kids in the next couple of years by choice. I'm going to have kids that are mine through surrogacy. When that child grows up, they are not going to be able to pick any woman from this society. I am going to do arranged marriages only for both male and female in my family because I don't want them to have the experience of trying to pick through the ran-throughs within this society in order to bring these people to the table to possibly take advantage of the resources that I've worked so hard for in my generation. So would you consider what I'm saying the chase or whatever you talked about does this kind of fit in to what you're saying, or is it not in alignment with what you just said? Or
You said you were going to have children through surrogacy?
Yeah.
So my question there would be, I'm of the firm belief that children need both parents. They need a mother and they definitely need a father. Do you think that it's a preferable thing for a child to not have a mother?
I mean, I prefer them to have guardians that are stable. It doesn't have to be a mother. Yeah, I just prefer them to have a stable environment that I orchestrate. And this whole thing of since they had them, they should be able to raise them. I don't think that's a good idea versus what I can lose on the outset. I mean, if we would have wanted something like that, we wouldn't have made the marriage laws the way it is. The way that I am going about things is so that way I have the maximum protection for my own self.
Oh, BMT, why don't you just join in? Okay, say something. He's like, did you see his little message? It popped up. BMT, what do you have to say on this? Unmute your mic. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear y'all. I didn't know if y'all just wanted to do a one-on-one.
No, I want you can talk, but you disappeared. So how do I know what's going on? Go ahead. What do you
I was here the whole time. I literally sat here and drunk like 3 beers. Like, literally.
What do you have to say? Speak up, man.
Well,
speak up.
I was not gonna stop you doing the interview. You were sitting there like I thought I was on like some kind of C-SPAN.
Katie Couric. I'm Katie Couric.
I'm just saying you had the thing, you had him like it's like a C-SPAN message. I didn't want to stop anything.
Do you feel thoroughly interrogated? Now that I asked you all those questions.
It's doing good. I mean, this is pretty good. Like I said, I'm trying.
I know where you stand. You want prostitutes and porn. Go ahead, talk about it.
I don't got no. Well, I don't have no beef. I've traveled the world 3 times, so I mean, I've been all over, and seen how it plays out. I've even done the research for how it plays out versus divorce here, versus divorce in places where there is prostitution that's legal. So, I mean, honestly, the statistics in the statistics don't lie. We honestly want to start pairing it up. Prostitution wise, if we look at it, first off, we in the U.S. we talk about and preach about rape culture, correct? We preach about that. Now it's funny because you don't hear other parts of the world talking about rape culture. You only hear it so much in the U.S. However, in most of the U.S. prostitution is illegal. I find it very interesting that in other countries where prostitution is legal, you don't hear them talking about rape culture because there's a status balance to it. You understand me? Where now you have slut walk, slut shaming, but like women here are more conscientious of their body versus women over in other places. It's what you see is what you get. And if I want a quality man, I got to put in certain type of work. If I want this man, I know he already has access to women. So what makes me stand out from all the other women? You got to put it like that, because we put it like this. And I can actually pull it up. Hang on, let me actually pull it up for you. I love to show people information.
So you think women should have to compete for men?
Yes, I believe women should have to compete for men. Why? Because one, the thing about it is what you're doing, because men are already at an early age. Most men, I would say 75% of men, if they're in the workforce, they are already competing. They're competing for the best of the crop. So what you work hard for and what you can afford or manage, that's what you should be able to have. I'm just being for real. I can't ask for the top of the cream of the crop if I'm not producing or providing for her. You understand me? See, the thing about it is the woman is there as a commodity to the man. Understand it? I this is the law of being a man. Like, men can go their whole life and have everything intact, but not get a woman. However, in certain countries, if a man has his money, he has everything put together, he can go have access at a woman. Why? Because he already knows there's a stable foundation of that type of service there for him, because he's paying for a service.
So you think that it's kind of like buying a nice car or a nice house. You should be able to buy a nice woman when you become accomplished.
Well, I'm not going to say you buy a nice woman. Close that door, please. I'm not saying. Well, I mean, honestly, you pay for what you like. Understand? And I'll use you for example. You're not going to just take on any type of bum man. Your man provided you a nice house, nice furniture, everything. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I bought this furniture.
Well, I understand. I'm not taking from what you done, but I understand that your man, he works. He works for what he wants. He works for what he wants. Okay, and because he works for what he wants, he should have what he desires. Okay, that is the law of man. That should be the law of man. However,
but I want to say something.
Go ahead.
I know men who have a lot more in their bank accounts who wanted to marry me too. Right. I chose this man, even though he didn't have as much as them. If you guys notice, the home I'm in now is 2,000 square feet smaller than the home I lived in by myself. If you go look through my videos, you'll see that. So, but I did that because I love this man and I love the person that he is. I didn't pick him based on his bank account. So I think that, you know, just as men don't want to be reduced to their bank accounts, and in my case, my man was not reduced to his bank account because I would have chosen another man if I were just after resources, right? Not to say he's not successful, but he's not the most successful man that I could have married, right? I don't think women should be reduced to their physical appearance and their sex. So I think it's just dehumanizing on both sides. And I don't approve of women doing that to men. And I don't approve of men doing that to women because we're human beings and people and valuable. We are not cars or houses or a commodity, in my opinion.
Well, if that's the case, let's look at it like this. And I know I know what you're saying, that women are looking at like property. Now, we're going to honestly say that if the state, let's look at the U.S. right now. If the state did not reward women for how many children that they bear.
Well, they don't actually. After 1 year of being on social welfare, you don't get more money for additional children.
That's now.
That's welfare reform.
That's now. That's correct.
That's been for almost a decade now.
Okay, no, hold on. It wasn't always like that. It wasn't always like that, because honestly, we know some women who go re-up and get right back on the system. We cannot pretend like
no, but there's a max now. So it's it's an ever-moving clock, and I think 7 years is the max. I only know this because I used to work for like a decade with the with a lot of Office of Human Capital programs. So that's like an argument that doesn't exist anymore. For almost 10 years, you can't do that, and you can only get cash aid for 7 years. Like there's let's
go off. I want you to look at that. You can't for 7 years. I don't really have to depend too much on a man. I don't have to. Okay, but I have the system. However, if I can find a man, regardless of if he doesn't have any access to women, and we've seen this before, where you see these guys, these incels or guys who can't get no women, busting their ass and doing X, Y, and Z to get the approval or validation of a woman. Regardless if this woman has children, regardless if this woman is living in an impoverished type of neighborhood or network, he's going to take what he can get. Why? Because he doesn't have access to women. So he's going to be like, listen, I got money. Oh, what do you need? Oh, you need me to pay this bill? Now, she's just providing a service with her body. That's all she's doing.
So you're saying because if a woman has children and things like that, then she's useless. She couldn't be anything else.
I never said she wasn't. I never said she wasn't.
I mean, that's what you're saying. She's providing a service. So you're saying she's got kids. She's got all this. She's not in a nice house.
She's providing herself.
The he's there for is sex. He's there for her. There's nothing else she's bringing. Nothing mentally. Nothing. It's just the commodity that she's providing. And so that part of it's unfair. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying the man is simply gets the bragging right or the validation that look at me, guys. I got a woman, you know what I'm saying? She looks pretty. You know, I got that girl who's on Facebook that got 45 likes. That's what these guys who are simps or sex starved, that's what they do. They will show off a woman even though she's not doing anything to contribute to society, but just take selfies, show off some cleavage, show ton of butt pics.
Okay, that's true.
Okay, and these guys will send her a bunch of likes, and she will say, "Okay, if you want to be around me, you got to pay to play. If you want to be around me, I need some money. If you want to come around me,
yeah." But honestly, that's a very small percentage of women.
No. That's called.
Yeah, no. Because the average woman that is walking on the street isn't on Facebook or any of those places you mentioned and taking selfies and telling people they have to pay for their time. That's not the majority of women.
Let's look at it like this. So if that's not the majority of women, one of the biggest issues that we got going on right now that the US have brought up was women on the system. One of the things that we brought up was that we have too many families that are on the system.
But they're all white families.
No, okay, it's like regardless, women are still women. Women are still women. I didn't generalize it. I didn't say black women. I said women. Because we're seeing white men are getting raped by the system too. Now, here's the thing about it. If we honestly had something where, listen, I don't have to pay you for your negligent behavior. I can go to this woman who accepts her whoredom. Mind you, look at what's going on right now with society. You have Amber Rose and all them saying, hey, I should be able to be a slut and y'all should still accept me. Now, mind you, in Germany and all these other countries, you don't hear this type of talk. MOT, do you hear women in other countries saying, accept me for being a slut?
No.
You don't hear
they don't have to, right? Because they're accepted for being literal prostitutes, right? So
no, that's their.
They are being accepted. That's the point. They're actually prostituting themselves. So
okay, there's one thing where as to I want the same benefits that Irene gets. I want the same access to men that Irene gets. I want to be able to. I can be the disgusting, most unbearable type of woman, and you should not be able to say anything about it. In other countries, I don't see this kind of thing going on. I don't see this type of vulgarity. Why? Because women understand. Listen, you're not going to see no woman coming in looking undecent into a doggone store showing off in front of other men. She would have got checked at the door. Hold on, you don't do that. Come back correct.
That's interesting because there are prostitutes there. So,
however, that's your career. You don't bring your career
I thought that Europe was very liberal, like about bodies and stuff like that. Like they almost have no standards. You know what I mean? Like everything's okay.
But they do.
Asexual. They raise their kids to be boys or girls. Encourage boys to play with girls' toys. Like they're very, very, very liberal in European countries.
But they do. See, actually, the thing about it, and MOT can tell you, and I can tell you that the women that are that are in countries, and I'll even go even in Nevada, prostitution is done to one. The women have to stay clean. They have to go to a mandatory doctor. I can pull it up the stats for Nevada. The women are only allowed to work for 9 days. After 9 days, hang on, where is it at? I'll pull it up for you right now. If you screen share, hang on, let me see if I can get it for you. I want your people to be able to see what I'm looking at.
You can share your screen.
Yeah. So there we go.
That was freaky.
There we go. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so Nevada, the women Nevada is the only U.S. state where prostitution is legally permitted in some form, strictly regulated to brothels, which they are. The police go through them, so the girls have safety. Also, along with that, they have their own license for their own private business because their body is an actual legit business. Also, along with that, they're in rural areas, isolated and mainly isolated. Just like MOT just said about how guys look at pornography in these isolated areas. This is where they put the brothels at. So they're not around public areas where people are normally going to. They're not there. They're in you got to go out of your way to these places. Away from the majority of population. However, prostitution is not legal in all of Nevada and is illegal in following counties, Clark. So also along with that, the girls have to get checkups. They also have to go get looked at by the doctor. And if they work over their hours, they can be fined by the state. Now, the funny thing about that is that you would think that, hey, these girls don't have no type of social value or class. These girls actually get paid $5,000 to $8,000 a pop. They make more money than some people that work the 9-to-5 job.
Well, I don't know about that much money because
they got a documentary.
When they were interviewed, they weren't making that much money per sex activity.
Now, here's the funny thing. Now, I also have the list. This is the list for states where rape is most common, right? Now, crazy enough, New Jersey, now these are populated areas where prostitution is illegal. Nevada, the one state that has prostitution, is down here.
Well, I actually add to that. I mean, studies have shown that that rape is less in places where prostitution is legal, but violence against women is always higher where prostitution is legal. So it's an interesting thing. Women aren't getting raped, but violence against women is higher. So right. I don't know. That's just like a sort of interesting dynamic, right? They're not getting raped, but their bodies themselves are being harmed in higher numbers.
Right. The thing about that, and again, if you want to be for real about it, when it comes honestly, we have this new culture going on where now women, if you notice, a lot of these women, well, you got a problem when you got the first lady like Michelle Obama saying, I want to be like Beyonce. When you got, and she's gone to school, why are prominent women wanting to be like women who are more promiscuous? Why would they want to be like that? Why would they want to be?
We know that these celebrities and Michelle Obama and all that are part of an agenda and a push to encourage women to be prostitutes and whores and neutralize the sexes. So we know that the destruction of the nuclear family is front and center in what is being pandered to in society. And that's another thing that I look at too. It's the destruction of the nuclear family. And I think about men, like you have sisters, you have daughters, like, do you really want a world where women are literally viewed as something you go out and you purchase? Are you going to, at that point, is it going to turn into like some of these countries we were talking about earlier, where women are literally sold at a young age because they're viewed as a commodity and something that can bring wealth to somebody? Is that the world we want to turn into? Obviously, as a woman, I'm going to be against that, right? I don't want to see my little girls or myself be sold as property or a commodity. I don't want to be walking around in a world of men where I am fighting and competing with other women because I want to be able to get on with other women as I want to be able to get on with men. So I think there's like a human aspect to this. And I feel like my concern is that I feel when we have conversations like this, we really tap into the gender wars. Do you know what I mean? Because this is the type of rhetoric that feminists use to turn healthy-minded women against men. They go, look at these men. They think that you're nothing but useful for sex. They think you should be pitted against each other. They think that your bodies are for sale. You know, they think you're a commodity. They don't view you as human beings. They're going and they're on their magazines. They're sticking you guys in meat grinders to show that you guys are meat to them and nothing more. You're no better than a car or a picture. So, I mean, does it not fuel the feminist agenda and almost prove them correct in their rhetoric?
It's funny that you say that, because literally I see more females put out more books about more men that they smash than men ever put out sex books about women that they smash. I hardly ever see men put out books. But why is it that women are getting paid? Like, we just did a story.
But we can't. That's not the average woman. How many women have actually done that?
Wait, let's pause. Hold on. So you don't want to say that's not the average woman, but yet if we want to go to any community, any lower tier community where income is not that high, if we go look at those type of communities, you see that you'll see women who are, you know, being promiscuous and having multiple fathers in the home and sleeping around. Now, understand this. Now, we got men that sometimes sell for sex or pimp their own selves out for sex. Men do it too. It's just that they don't get
men though. Gay men though, they play the woman.
No, it's not just gay men. It's not just gay.
Well, if you're letting a man have sex with you, you're gay. Because very few women are paying for sex. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I guess there's some straight guys.
About money? Because honestly, if the man is being used, is that not some type of prostitution? No different than the woman.
Well, be clear. Prostitution is the sale of your body. And also, it is equally wrong for women to attack a man and make him a focus of hers for his assets, as it is for a man to attack and make the focus of a woman her body. Both are dehumanizing and wrong. We have normalized disgusting behavior. Men are just as valuable as women. You guys are not a bank account. You're not a pocketbook. You're flipping people. And to the same degree, women are people. And people have things that they bring to the table other than their flesh and their pocketbook. And I feel society has lost value and understanding of that. And we start having these conversations that pander to dysfunction, where we start talking about each other in terms that are degrading. And I think if we don't stop having conversations from this viewpoint, that it's going to be problematic. And the problem is only going to feed into itself. That's why I said, when we hear this rhetoric, it feeds into the feminist agenda. And then when the feminists start saying vile and disgusting things about men, and then they encourage women to be whores, it feeds back into what you and Men of Tomorrow are saying, which is that, you know, women are going out, they're being promiscuous, they're getting used up, they have nothing to offer but sex, but then they want a man to come to the table and basically care for them. And so I feel like these two backward thinking sorts of agendas are feeding into themselves. You know, it's like the beast keeps stuffing food into its own mouth, pooping it out and stuffing it in its mouth again. You don't think that it's very circular? You don't see how these two things are kind of, you know what I mean?
I get, you're looking at it as if these people are victims. You're looking at it like this woman is helpless and a victim.
The man is a victim too. The man who is taken advantage by a woman who is after his money is just as much of a victim of a vile woman as a woman who is taken advantage by a man for her body. Neither one is right. Neither one is right. But I think that when we start dealing in people's bodies, right, a human being, it becomes worse. When we start looking at a person and their flesh is for sale, you know, then we start looking, we know all the most vile things in this world have come out of looking at human flesh itself as a commodity.
So I would ask, so the thing about it is you, like I said, in other countries, and I'm not sure how many countries you've been to, in other countries where this is legal, and I'll look at Africa. Let's go to Africa, where there is prostitution, slavery, and also polyamorous life. Now, for the men that are there, that take on multiple wives, they have to have money. They have to have assets. They have to have land. They have to have something to offer the family. These women don't just go to a household where the man doesn't have nothing to offer. They are taken on. If you want to go to Dubai or Saudi Arabia, the same thing is there. These men provide home, shelter, education for their children, and everything. In America, a lot of these women, and I'm going to just go on a woman's point of view, a lot of these women who are pimping these dudes or possibly getting pimped. They're going into situations where, one, nobody's really the benefactor. They're not moving up in societal life. And if the ones who do move up, they either have to hit it big with somebody who's already doing something, and they go off of that. Now, honestly, shame on you if you know that the person doesn't have anything going for themselves, and this is what you do. And you take them on. Now, Bill Gates is a billionaire. You don't see him trying to get a bad-looking woman who's a 10. No, he got somebody within his range. Now, would it be unfair for him to say, hey, I have somebody who's cuter on the side? No, because he has that type of funds. He has the asset. He has the resources that he should be allowed to. We're not going to make it seem like it's not in the Bible where they didn't have concubines. I mean, Solomon had how many wives? But he had the assets. And he was also being talked to by God. So these men, mind you, the same took down the walls of Jericho was a prostitute.
Right, but the average man is not Solomon or Bill Gates.
No. Well, okay, so you said the average man is not Solomon. So when you go off the average man, so why shouldn't the average man who works hard, busts his ass, and puts in a 9 to 5 not have access to a woman? Since I should be able to have access to what is my due, why should I not have access to a woman who's professionally providing a service for men to give them the encouragement and the dutiful duty to say, listen, you can have this, but hey, there's a girl doing the 9 to 5 and putting herself where she needs to be. You can also work harder and have her at your doorstep. Why not?
Well, I've said why not.
You said
these will be my arguments. Number one, when we hold up the standard countries that we hold up for sex, where prostitution is legal, we see it work two ways. One way is where women are greatly degraded in society and are even sold as children into sex work. And the other, which is what goes on in European countries for the most part, is where women are living comfortable and happy. The thing is that it can go both ways. Do you know what I mean? And so my thing would be, when I look at the latter, which is where women are so very degraded that they're even being sold as children because they're realized that they can make money off of them, that we dehumanize people at that point. We dehumanize human beings. And we keep talking about money and bodies, money and bodies. And I guess I'm just like, where is the humanity in this conversation? Like, money and sex are not the only thing that matter. But we keep having this conversation like the whole world is revolving around money and sex. And maybe in an unhealthy society, where broken people are functioning. Oh, where'd you go? Where broken people are functioning, maybe so, right? But I would hope that the goal would be to get to a healthy place, not a more dysfunctional place. Not to be like, we know that this is wrong, y'all, but you know what? Let's just do this. Let's just go crazy with our stupidity. Let's just break it down to purely.
Isn't that what did God say? Be fruitful and multiply.
And you can't have me unless you cough up some cash. I mean,
that sounds fair.
Really the world we want to live in?
Well, honestly, that's one of the main purposes of man. Man makes money. Man breeds. I mean, that's what we've been doing for thousands of years. We're not going to make it seem like we just all of a sudden changed up. First thing, be fruitful and multiply. So if you're going to be fruitful and multiply, that means you got to work. First thing he told man, you're going to work to the sweat of your brow.
And woman was to be a helpmeet for him, not a possession.
Okay, so guess what? So he said your woman is a helpmate. That means you work, you get a woman. So if I'm working,
that's
that
not
hold on.
that
Wait,
means the woman is there to literally help the man, not to be bought by the man.
Well, I didn't say. Well, guess what? If he's working, does he not deserve a woman by his helpmate?
First of all, I don't think money makes a person deserve another human being. I think being a good person makes you deserve another human being. Okay? We don't get people through buying them.
Well,
We get people through being decent and earning the love of another person. That's how women should get men. That's how men should get women. Man of Tomorrow, you don't think that is true? That should we not treat each other well and bring our best to the table? And that's how we gain a mate, not by buying or trickery as far as women tricking men, but through honest, rapport and care for another person and demonstrating that we are a good person and would add value to the other person's life. Is that not a healthy way? Man of Tomorrow?
I think he's.
Oh, I think he fell asleep. He's so cute.
He didn't fall asleep. He's just doing something right now. I'm gonna tell you right now. If that was the case about being a good human being, there wouldn't be so many good brothers. There wouldn't be so many good brothers have to feel like they need to leave the Black community to go find a good woman. If that's the case, there wouldn't be so many brothers feeling like if I agree with a woman, even though I know she doesn't have valid talking points, then I get treated like a simp or I get friend zoned. There wouldn't be there. We wouldn't have that problem if guys are being such good guys.
Well, if women were being good women, and that's why I said, is the answer to move to a place of greater dysfunction, or is the answer to return to a place of function? Do you know what I mean? Like,
wait. So if you're saying return to a place of function, then that would be when men are socially at the foot of the household, where they call all the shots. They get to choose. Hey, I go to this brother. I said, hey, you have a daughter. I have land. I have wealth. I can take care of your daughter. I just now made an economic change and said, hey, I'll give you some flock and some herd. Can your daughter come over and help me? I want to have some sons and some stuff. Guess what? That was just me keeping the mutual exchange of back in the day, where it's not like we're trying to do some color purple stuff, but that was the laws back then. And you say you want to take it back to that, then guess what? Women weren't making that many choices.
Well, I honestly know many women. I know most women in my family, especially from my grandpa's household, my aunts and uncles, and I have an aunt that's like my age, just a few years older than me, generations of women. And I know young women right now where that's how it's done. You stay in your father's household until you are married. That's how it will be for my daughters. And then you only leave once you are married and you are courted and your father approves. If you're in church, your pastor, your father approve of that union. I know grown women who have had their husbands pass, and the pastor or the male leader in her life introduces her to a man that marries her. I know a woman right now moved up to Alaska with her kids, and they raised their children together. His wife died of cancer. She lost her husband. They were introduced by their spiritual heads, and then they went and they got married, and now they live up in Alaska because that's where he works. So I actually know families that still do this, and I don't have a problem with it. I think it safeguards the woman, and I think that it makes sure that she gets a good man and that the man gets a good woman, because he's getting, and I think that's a lot of the problem, is we live in a society where we don't know the reputations of people either. And that really negates that, right? Because then you know her community members. Then you know people that can vouch for her character. Then you know how she was raised. So I think all of those things are healthy and right. And I see nothing wrong with that.
Now, what you just said right there was pretty much, you were just talking about the courting stage of a man going to another man to ask for his daughter's hand. You just now gave us the description of what they did back then. Now,
and that I know people do now. I know people that do that now.
Hold on. Now, what you're talking about with people that are doing that, are they in the bracket that is below 40,000?
I know people that are not as financially secure, but most of them are at least middle class, middle upper class. But I do know a few people that are a little less financially secure that do that. But in my defense, I can only know people for the most part in my own income bracket, right? So that would be like upper middle class.
Okay, now let's look at it like this. In middle and lower class, a lot of men are taking what they can get, or which woman will actually might look at them, whether it be good or bad sometimes. But a lot of these men are like, hey, I'm doing everything I need to do. Mind you, for a man to actually come to his craft or skill takes a few years. Now, mind you, he's getting his money up. Now, whatever that female is going through or dealing with, she could probably end up having sex with other men. She could probably end up doing that. See, now, you don't have to worry about that if there was prostitution, because guess what? Those females are already out there. So the women that are the Irenes that stay in the house, they're going to be about doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, if there's some women out there that want to be promiscuous and just put their body up for sale, then let them. Let them. There should be no problem with that. That way, I mean, honestly, if there are men out there, that are buying buying a female, at least I understand one thing about that woman. She has a job. I'm gonna say that right now. The woman has a job. She's being paid. So I'm not gonna make it seem like this woman, oh wait, she's just giving it up. At least I know she just now made $100 to $200 from that one session, if that man chooses to pay that. This is one of the reasons why Backpage had to be shut down, because women were going on Backpage and giving up ads for money. And I ain't talking about, and you know what? The thing about it was, they're like, I don't want no black men. I don't want no black men. I like Latino men. I like white men with money. I like older white men. This is the stuff that was being put out there. Heck, you can go check Instagram, and they do that on Instagram. Women are selling themselves to get money, to get advancements. I want to go on luxurious trips, POF. Now, I'm telling you what these women are doing.
I know, but why are we pandering and making decisions on the most base people in society? That's what I'm saying. Like, how can we take the worst of society, the most base people who are just like sex, money, and go, let's just build our whole society around that logic.
Because they are the majority and you're the minority, and the majority always has the biggest voice. That is
I don't think most women are literal prostitutes. I don't.
Nobody said most men.
I don't think most men view women as commodities. If I believe that, then I would be a feminist, because that's what the feminists believe. They believe that most men don't see women much more as other than something to be purchased. So are the feminists right? Is that how most men view us? As we are a commodity that you purchase, and we are not people? Is that you know what I mean? As I put my head in my
movement, the feminist movement, the original feminist movement, and I spoke to one of them before the show, said that they would like to be equated equally to men. Now, if you're saying you want to be equated equally to men and you want to work and you want to use your body as work, then who am I to tell you that, hey, that's no different than a bodybuilder or a guy, and you want to say they're not the average person. So whenever I use the average person, you say, well, that's not everybody. It's like we can't keep on changing the goalposts.
Well, no, I mean, I think most people, and I don't know, in the chat, I can't see the chat, but you guys can speak to this. So hi to the chat. I apologize, y'all. I think most people who interact in life know that the women that are around them that they interact with regularly are not prostitutes, aren't like literally like, give me some money or a trip and I'll have sex with you. I don't think that most men are like, hey, here goes some money, let's have sex. But again, if that's really what society is like, if that's what you're telling me, that men essentially just want to be able to
make money and
have access to women and just offer money and just get a woman's body, and most women are open to just receiving money and giving their body, and then that's That's male-female relations right there. And we're just raising our daughters for somebody to buy them, and we're just raising our sons to purchase.
Then what is the point? Then there is no point. Then there literally is no point to marriage, what you're just saying.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point? What's the point, right? Because
there you go.
Here's the thing about it. Women are to be bought, and men are the buyers.
No. If what you're trying to say is you're just making it seem like women. But you're not including the men that work a 9 to 5 and that a woman doesn't have to do anything but just be in the presence of this man and he pays her. I know some men that have to get a schedule just to have sex with their wife.
Well, then he's doing a poor job.
No.
What you're saying is true, then so be it. So men are the buyers of society and women are the commodities of society. We are like a car or a picture or a pillow or a couch. You work hard, you get your money up. I want that one. Here's $100 or $1,000 or whatever she costs. If you want a nicer model, you pay more. And then that's just how we run society. And women should be taught from a young age.
Why should it not be that?
Taught from a young age to make themselves pretty so that a man will want to pay more money to have sex with them.
So why is it that women teach their daughters if they teach their daughters proper etiquette, if they have a proper role model, how to stand up straight, how to have education and different other stuff, and put them in proper alignment of schools to hopefully meet the right guy. So mind you, they're grooming and breeding their daughter to meet the right type of man. Now we can't pretend like this ain't happening because
not to be bought by the right type of men, but to be good women.
No, well, guess what? Hold on. But wait, are we going to pretend like the Jews don't do this? Are we going to pretend like the Jews don't do this with, hey, guess what? I'm a doctor. My wife is a botanist. What do you got? Oh, wait, you got 2 families that are well off breeding their children to keep the money.
Let's be clear. Let's not equate how I was raised, for example, I didn't say you. No, because that's what you're saying. You're saying, for example,
no. I didn't say you.
In my family, women are raised to be intelligent, to be articulate, to know how to be submissive to a man, to know how to carry themselves, to know how to dress and things like that. The object is so that when we get married, we can be proper wives and we can be good mothers and raise good children. The object is not to be purchased.
You just sound like you were being bred for
the
marriage.
2 things are not the same. You cannot equate that.
But you just now agreed
and reduce good women down to prostitute status.
You just now, but I didn't call you a prostitute.
I'm saying all women like me. All women.
Hold on.
Like, aren't you grooming your daughters to be with the man? Well, grooming.
That sounds like you're breeding your daughter to get how to get a man. That sounds like you're breeding. But you just now, what you just said was, you literally, your family bred you how to get a man.
No, my family bred me to be a good woman. Oh. And part of being a good woman is bearing children. And doing that is done within a marriage. So yes, I will be in submission to a man. So I need to know how to deal with and be in submission to a man. And I can't just bring my looks to the table, right? I have to be able to balance his books. I have to be able to handle his affairs. I have to be able to educate our children and run a household and sew a hole if I have to, or take the hem of his pants up. So that's not breeding a prostitute. That's breeding a wife and a helpmeet, because our role in life is to help and be in submission to men. But what you are saying is you're equating that to, well, you're basically like you're making a correlation that I don't like, unless that's what, and it's fine. It's fine if men believe this, but like I said, it panders to a feminist talking point that men view women as objects and not people. And this feeds into dysfunction in our society of male and female relations. Is there no way that you can see that you are actually proving the point of the feminist? And the feminist says, and women like me defend men and say men are not like that. But then I sit and I hear men say, yeah, we're exactly like that. Like,
no, the thing about it is, Irene, and I'm gonna say, I'll tell you this. You're a good wife. You were bred to be the ideal type of wife that a lot of men chase after. I got nothing against that. But however, I would be very disheartened if Ray Ray and Pookie had access to you. No. You said you could choose any man, but that's true. You got to think. You also were put in a proper alignment. A lot of women don't have that type of access like you. A lot of women didn't have a two-parent household. A lot of women were raised by their mama that, listen, you got to learn the game, baby, on how to get a man in the room. You get a good man, make sure he got some good money. See that boy over there who's slinging that dope? Guess what? He got that whip. That's a man that you want. You want that man with power, with access, accessibility. And a lot of girls go after that. A lot of girls want to be the Cardi B's, the Nicki Minaj and stuff. They're not trying to be the Irene. They're trying to be the girl that has other men flaunting after them so that way they have access to accessibility. The reason why Backpage and other porn sites got shut down was because the government could not take the money and could not make money off of that. Just like how they did for alcohol. If the government can't make money off of it, then they shut it down. That's the only reason why Backpage got shut down, because those women were making so much money, but it was money that the government cannot tap into. Mind you, that they found out that the police officers knew these girls were selling their bodies in certain hotels and not doing stings, but they were taking cuts off of it. That's why Backpage got shut down.
The police officers were pimps?
Yeah. Oh, believe me. Oh, you see, that's the thing about it. That's how it works. That's how the world works. You breed, you make money. No, it's no different. We're not trying to dehumanize people, but we cannot refute. That is the basic logic of man. Then there's no marriage is something for companionship. That's all it is. I need somebody to help me throughout life. Woman, I choose you. Mind you, look at the vows. Woman, I choose you. Husband, I choose you. Okay, congratulations. But you submit under the man. You're under his rule. And then when you're under his rule, you follow under his obedience and under his laws. Now, if honestly, and you agreed with, if your man, if in the polygamy lifestyle, if your man said, I want to go take on another wife, guess what? If he has the funds, he should be able to go do that. Would it be illogical for him to do that? I'm going to ask you that. If your man, if you agree with the polygamous lifestyle, would it be illogical for your man to take on another wife if you're such a submissive wife?
If I were in a polygamous relationship, would it be fine for my man to have another wife? Well, if I was in a poly relationship, of course it would be okay. Okay,
now let's stop right there. Now, let's look at it like this. A lot of these men, and we're going to look over there in Europe, a lot of these men who get married, their marriages last out. Mind you, they have access to women that are in prostitution. But being that they already ran it out of their system, there's no need to. Because they got the woman that they want that cooks and cleans and stability. Versus here, you're not guaranteed that stable woman. You are guaranteed that, guess what? If after so many years, she can take half of what you have. You don't have that type of system over there in Europe. The woman understands, I need to find a man that I can depend on. Either I leave out the house or I can go into prostitution, make my money, have a place to stay. I can be a nice little geisha. I can be a nice little girl at a tavern. Women get pregnant overseas, there's no support system. Women get pregnant over here, there is a support system. There is a culture for that. We can pull up pictures on Facebook of a 12-year-old girl bragging off how she's pregnant. Nice and plump. You don't have, I mean, we got to be for real, man. It's real what it is. I know you don't like it saying, well, I can't believe that's how it is. But that's how the world is. When you're sheltered from that, it's okay. Because that's how you were groomed. I don't fault you for that. But being realistic, a lot of these men, if they had access to a woman like you, how much work would they have to put in? We can't make it seem like marriage is not based off of sex, your faith, and goddamn money. And if you don't have those three, you should not be breeding. So if you don't got those, you don't have no right to breed. I'm sorry, if you don't got no money, you shouldn't be breeding. Because you're bringing children into the world and they don't have no viable chance unless they have to depend on the system. So guess what? The man coming up short. You got the money, you can go have as much babies as you want. The woman is there to be a helpmate. Now you got women who are saying, coming on like Amber Rose, oh, he doing whatever he want to do. Fuck him, take his money. We cannot refute this. That's the main thing you're arguing about. This is why feminism, mind you, feminism for black women, mind you, feminism for black women came about when they said that they were oppressed by black men and they couldn't be accepted by white feminism. Mind you, Yoko Ono made a song called Nigger. Black men didn't push feminism on black women.
Wait, what nigger? What are you talking about?
Yeah, you can look it up. Yoko Ono made a song called Nigger.
And she got away with that?
Yeah, she did. It was a song. She wrote the song. It's back in the 80s. I mean, it's back then when she made her own song.
What was it about? Was it about?
No, she was saying women are the niggers of the world.
Oh, yeah, I could see that based on this conversation. I don't know what I'm hearing here. Like, I hear what I'm hearing, but I'm just saying, like, I'm telling you, this is why this is the problem. I feel like maltreatment of each other has got us in this position because look, men claim about the court system. The reason the laws are the way they are is because men were literally leaving women who couldn't work or do anything, and they were refusing to give them anything. And so the laws were built to protect women from men, essentially, to protect women who couldn't work, couldn't own land, couldn't do things, from men that would leave them penniless with kids. So the laws were like, okay, we have to protect the women. So here we go, a bad thing happening, and then there are laws to protect it. Then women get a little status in society, and then women are preying on men for money, and then the laws that were designed to protect us are being used to exploit men. So now we're in this system where exploitation is happening and men are becoming disgruntled and they don't like women because they're like, oh my goodness, these women are using us and it's like a problem. And then what we end up having is a situation where instead of going, okay, let's reset this to a place where, like Man of Tomorrow said, are you with us now, Man of Tomorrow? Like he said, like the reset button, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of us going to that place, we're going, let's go deeper down this rabbit hole of pure fuckery. Let's go ahead and just reduce it to the base male-female relation kind of thing. And I think it feeds then into the feminist cause where they're like, men, all they care about is X, Y, and Z. They just view us as objects. They just think that we're commodities. And this is their feminist talking point. And then it's the MGTOW talking point. Well, women just want us for money. And so all I see in this is like ultimate demise. Do you know what I mean? Ultimate demise. I definitely think that there's a benefit to sex being in the confines of marriage because it encourages people to engage in having a nuclear family. But as you said, it's also for companionship and things like that. So why would we not want to make decisions that nourish a healthy male-female dynamic than peddling in flesh, peddling in bodies? You know, I mean, what is really the lesser of the two evils? Why do we have to pick to be ultra base? You know, I that part I don't understand.
I think the reason why, again, not every man is blessed with looks, economics.
You know, y'all don't have to be attractive. You need to shut up. No. Men don't have to look good.
But the men that do look good, we watch, and I mean, you can actually chat. The men that look good and dumb as bricks, the nice little genuines and pretty rickies in the classroom, and you know what I'm saying, the immatures. Like, we watch these guys have access to all the women.
Yeah, but that's because that's pushed in media. In reality,
no, it wasn't so much pushed in media.
He's very effeminate. Nobody wants a genuine in real life.
Wait, see, you just said he was effeminate.
He is.
How do you know he's effeminate?
You can look at him. Look at how well his face is groomed. Like, I like a well-groomed man, but he's groomed like a girl. His hairstyles, there's too much attention to that. Like, go get a fade or a cut up, but like the meticulous gel and like weird stuff, I don't know what's going on with that man. He's very much like a woman.
Now, you want to say that. Now, you want to say that he's effeminate, but this dude's knocking down bodies.
Yes, because he has money, and there's always a hoe chasing a dollar.
Okay, now keyword, there's a hoe chasing a dollar. Okay. Now, what he just proved is that if I have the money, even if I don't have the looks, but if I have the money,
I can get the basest of women. That's all he's proved, is that there are base women out there who pander to base men. And I'm all for base people sticking together, but I'm not for creating laws that are inclusive. Just let the base people do what they do. We don't need to involve laws in this. This doesn't have to become the law of the land. I think that is the difference. When we start normalizing things by legalizing things, that's like homosexuality. We start normalizing base behavior by legalizing it. And we have to stop with this, let's just legalize all the stupid stuff attitude. Like, let stupid people be stupid. But why do we have to start making it acceptable in society to behave that way?
Now, one person said money is good, but some women want the family man. Now, if they want the family men, then they're not going to be promiscuous. You see, what you just now let the man get to choose is, do I want the women with bodies? Mind you, they call them in social media the basic bitch because she's not out and about. She's not getting around. And some men, they do want that. Versus they can always choose the woman who keeps to herself, the woman who has her head in the books. Now, this is not something that's always through media because we have some good brothers who've never been, in that type of looking in media, music. I was allowed to look at BET for a while when I was a kid. I wasn't allowed to look at that. I wasn't blessed. They had me in gospel and revivals all doggone day. Like I went to like 14 revivals. I said, dang, Jesus must be coming back. So all I saw was church girls. When mind you, church girls were chasing after the bad boys. So when I would try to have talking points, my daddy said, listen, son, if you work, you have your money, you get yourself together, you get yourself a nice place and a nice little car, you can get a woman. Because you provided everything you need for yourself, and the woman will come eventually. But I was taught that I needed to provide something for the woman. Now, guess what we're seeing now? The women who are dropping their drawers, the man don't have to provide that damn shit no more. He's like, shit, I just need the money. I got to just go find Big Booty Brenda at the club. I know her light bill ain't going to get paid tomorrow, but her check don't come in. But guess what? I got that $200 or that $150 she needs. So she provided it. He knew he had the money. He got Big Booty Brenda. I'm not going to get mad at him because he knew what she wanted. She knew what he needed. It's a mutual exchange of adults. Hey, I got something you need. I need my bills paid. You need some ass. Simple. No emotions involved. And if it's good enough, he'll come back.
You know I don't even have words for you.
You're right. You don't have no words. You better stick in your nice little castle and cut your Bible. Told you.
Okay. So we're coming up on this 2-hour mark, so I'm not going to keep you guys long. I feel like Man of Tomorrow.
Say I won. Just say that.
No, I don't think that you won, but I do think this is what I will say in my conclusion.
Man, right.
In my conclusion, I will say that I think that the idea that selling flesh, selling a human being, and buying a human being is problematic. And I think there's a human aspect to that people want to kind of skirt around. That's not healthy. I also think that it's undermining of the nuclear family. I also think that if we're going to move in a direction, we should move in the direction of having relationships that are healthy and right and promoting that, and that we need to stop normalizing the most base of behavior and simply allow individuals who want to engage in those things to do that, but we as a society should not sanction that. I think that's very important, and I think we have to look at the most vile places that have legal prostitution and how the most prostituted class, which are women and children, how they are treated. And from a human perspective, there's just no way that anybody with any like love for just people could ever want that to be the plight of any individual. You know, like I said, we have the high prostitutes of the European countries, you know, in Nevada and how they're running it. But we also see that this goes other ways. And we also see that even prostitutes that are willing prostitutes have a number of mental disorders and physical ailments and post-traumatic stress and things like that. These are willing prostitutes. So they are human beings, and it is not natural for a woman to be having sex with hundreds and hundreds of people. It's not natural. And even those prostitutes who aren't getting paid, you know, these women that are just picking up a lot of bodies, it's not healthy for them. And it's not healthy for men either. And we should not encourage people to engage in behaviors that are not healthy. That is my opinion. Mm-hmm. My last say on it.
Your Disney Channel opinion. Mm-hmm.
I'm sick of people calling my opinions Disney Channel. You know, people.
I'm sorry, you live in like some Disney Channel castle where all is sunny and flowers come to you and little birds and crap. I live in doggone Detroit, where people throw liquor bottles and piss on the street, and shit's real out here.
I grew up in the city. People pee on the street too. But I'm saying if in real life people do live like this right now, why would we pretend like it's not possible? People are doing this right now. It is normal for some people right now in this country. So why do we keep talking about it like it's literally a fictitious thing that doesn't go on?
Somebody asked a good question. How can you simultaneously oppose prostitution, but you support concubines? Good question, Mister.
Well, I didn't say I supported concubines. I said I would be in favor of multiple wives. I said, a lesser wife. If a concubine is considered a lesser wife, yes. But that's not prostitution. Prostitution is you go out and you purchase women for sex.
I purchase her, my concubine, to come home and be.
No, that's not the same, and you know that.
Concubine, what they supposed to be?
They live in the house. They bear the man's children. They are just a lesser wife. So that's not the same as going and purchasing a body, having sex, coming and going away. Concubines are not people that you have sex with and then you just don't see them again. Or maybe you go back and you pay them some more money. They are kept in a home. They are provided for. They are basically like a wife. They're basically like a lesser wife. I would be less in support of concubines than I would be in support of just a relationship where a man had multiple wives. I think that's honest. And we cannot confuse a man bearing children or giving a woman children and a woman supporting him and them living in a home together with prostitution. Like, let's not make that correlation.
I just Googled it. Yeah, she's in that realm. She's a mistress. She's pretty much,
Yeah, but they're mistresses that are kept in a home,
yeah,
and
she gets to come here.
Yeah, they often bear children and stuff like that. That's not a prostitute.
Bear children.
Yeah, they bear children as well. So that's not like a person that is just going and you're having sex with them and buying their body. That's, like I said, a lesser wife would be what a concubine is, a lesser status wife.
Right.
That is very different from straight out prostitution.
They can't be recognized. You have multiple factors, rank set. That's almost they're pretty much in the range of prostitution.
But not really, right? Because again, they bear children. They're kept in a home. They're not sleeping with multiple men. They are with one man. So they are monogamous. So those things are very different. Because even a concubine as a lesser wife or a mistress is monogamous.
Hold on. I got you. Because the man, if he doesn't want to deal with his wife, guess what? He goes to the concubine. If a man who's married doesn't want to deal with his wife, guess what he does in those countries? He goes to a prostitute.
Yeah,
you are literally doing the same thing.
No, because that prostitute has been having sex with hundreds of people.
Right.
So how is that the same thing? How is a concubine that you might have a child with equivalent to a woman who's having sex with hundreds of men, dozens of men a day?
Drake got a concubine
That's
pregnant.
not the same, huh?
Drake got a girl pregnant, and she was a concubine.
I mean, was she a concubine or just somebody he randomly had sex with and got pregnant?
Well, technically, she was a porn star, but you know.
So she was a prostitute for a living. Shut up. See, this one.
But nevertheless, now guess where she's living? She's living with him.
Oh, so now she's kept. Well, I guess he wants to keep an eye on his baby. So
I'm just saying. All I'm just
for
saying.
the record, people, I'm not pro concubine. Okay.
Yes,
somebody asked me the question, and I think a more accurate answer is, I would say that a poly relationship where a man has more than one wife can work in certain situations, but concubine per se, no, not that is not what I would advocate for. So I just want to clear that up, so y'all don't ever bring that up again. You people.
They trained you well, Irene. Your master breeders, your mommy and daddy trained you well. You won't break from your format. It's okay. I understand that. I understand that.
Shut up.
All right, I'm just saying. I want right now. Who do the viewers agree with? Irene. 1 for Irene. 2 for guests.
1 for me. 1 for me. 1.
1 for Irene. 2 for guests.
1.
1 for Irene. 2 for guests. That's all we want to know. We can.
1 for me.
I will drink my beer in peace.
No,
2.
don't. So don't.
Thank
so
you.
Why are you gonna be my mod and say 2?
1.
I'm gonna beat
2.
you up.
Yeah, that's another 2. Thank you.
We're tied right now.
Another 2. Thank you.
Soto can't vote twice.
Why can't they vote?
He voted twice.
Get your vagina.
2. Thank you.
How are you gonna apologize and then say 2,
2.
Joseph? You need to stop.
2. Thank you. God damn it. The people who don't live in the Ivory Castle agree.
He's talking about, wait, what are you talking about? I don't think people know what question they're answering.
No, look at her. Look at you. Quit changing. We won.
You're voting for me, Audio. Vote for me.
No, you're not. No, you're not. No,
Irene for president.
1 is for
Irene
Irene. 2.
president.
Thank you.
Me.
Guess what? The votes are in.
No, me. They're not
The
in.
votes are in. Thank you guys for being honest. So
No.
hopefully.
You traitors. You guys are all traitors.
Whoa, Irene. For once,
Traitors.
you lost a debate. Make sure you mark that down.
Y'all
But
are
the fans still love you.
shame.
Maybe if you would have went with concubine, they probably would have supported you. We went with concubine.
Shame on y'all need a spanking. Every last one of you.
Guess what? If you pay a prostitute, they will give you a spanking.
Shut up. Why do I have you here? I don't know.
If your wife ain't into spanking, guess what? The prostitute will give you one. And you can go right back to your wife and say, I love you, baby. I know. Did you pay the bills first? Yes. Okay. You can go out and have fun with your little mistress. Bam. Thank you guys for supporting us on this chat. Again, if you feel any type of way or any kind of debates you want us to do, please let us know. I'm sure Irene is looking for a way to probably, come at me with something else.
I like to fight him.
I told you. Well, I don't know why you don't just agree. We want to do the next one about polygamy, or you want to do the next one about gays? I know you got other stuff you want to do. I'm scared to let my gay friend. You already know. I think you're going to take advantage of my gay friend. Like, you're going to try to.
Oh, are you going to bring a gay person?
Yes, I will bring a gay person on. He's a pansexual.
I'm just the kind of women that the gays actually love. So I think I could win.
I doubt it.
If you're bringing a gay person, I'm going to want to do the gays.
You're going to do the gays?
If you can get a gay person.
Okay.
As long as they're not going to let my channel get flagged because they don't like what I said.
Oh, Lord.
Is it a vindictive gay person?
I mean, between you and MGTOW and incels, I mean, who else? You've been banned off of pretty much every other person's group. So
The MGTOWs love me. That's why they chase me around.
true.
The MGTOWs are in love with me. They're in love.
Do a topic if I was a concubine. This is what I would be or do.
I'm not doing that crap.
Why not? It's a pretty good.
Not for me.
Would you support your husband having a concubine?
No. He would get another wife before he would get a concubine.
You wouldn't need to get another wife if you got a concubine.
He would get another wife before
Abraham had a concubine.
But let me tell you, I am a satisfactory replacement for at least 2 or 3 or 4 women.
I guess you were bred pretty well. You were bred pretty well.
So I'm good.
Mind you, prostitutes get bred for their business, just like women do.
No, prostitutes get groomed, and there's a difference.
Bred and groom are 2 different words now?
Yep.
I'm Googling that. Bred and groom.
Groomed has an insidious sort of when you're speaking about people, it's not positive.
You say everything is insidious and bad. Oh yeah, I have the
you say is insidious and bad.
You'll always argue with me on it. Here you go. This is the song by John Lennon, and it's called.
No, don't play it. I'm
not gonna play it, but that's the song right there. See, John Lennon, the woman.
Oh, it literally says "woman is the wow."
Yep, and that's the lyrics right there. This was made by Yoko Ono and John Lennon. Literally, this is their song for women. This is a song for y'all.
Well, I would hate to say that it's probably pretty accurate from this conversation. We are the lowest of the lowest in society.
Now men are, especially black men. We are definitely the lowest.
We are not.
Yeah, we are.
That's why I showed you a woman in a meat grinder. They'll never have a man in a meat grinder.
No, they got us under a jail cell fighting fires and shit. That's what they got.
We're not even people. We're pieces of art, a car.
Hands up, don't shoot.
We're warm-blooded blow-up dolls, according to this conversation. I just can't with this life. I can't.
Well, you got Disney princesses. I don't see no. Show me one black Disney prince. There are.
Oh, that was well. No, wasn't the one that the so-called black Disney princess wasn't her prince a black one?
Was he a black one?
I didn't see it.
He was mulatto.
No,
Aladdin was Arab.
I was about to say.
I kept thinking Jasmine was black.
No, she's.
We were desperate. Black people, we were desperate for a princess, man. We needed one. We needed one win. Yeah, we don't really got no black person. We don't. He's Haitian.
No, there's a black princess, and the guy that she was with wasn't a black. I mean, I didn't see the movie, but
was her prince?
Wasn't her prince black?
Okay, Prince Naveen, I guess. Yeah, I guess so. We'll say he's black.
Look, I've never even seen the movie.
Does Black Panther count? Does T'Challa count for a Disney prince? Since Disney owns Marvel?
I guess we
we won. We got T'Challa. Yeah, we got a black person.
Yeah. Well, technically.
Like I said, I can't wait till you do your documentary on should we view women as sex objects? Ooh.
No, it's gonna be called Whore. That's gonna be.
Why do you want a show called Whore?
The documentary is gonna be called Whore.
Are you gonna put on red lipstick when you do it, like Basic Instinct?
No, I'm not. But the reason I'm calling it that is because that's what somebody called me. They called me a YouTube whore. So how I'm sitting here talking, despite everything I've said.
I like your sweater.
Oh, my cardigan. Thank you so much.
That's a cardigan? What the hell is that?
Yeah, it's a cardigan is like a light sweater.
See, bottom bitches don't know what the fuck that is. They just say it's a sweater. That's what it's called. You see, that's why I said, Irene, I wish we knew your definition of what women or what certain women do. Like, I wish you would honestly do like a critique of what women do on a day-to-day basis.
What do you mean?
Like you don't normally do what normal women do. So it's like Allegra's window. Like how you describe women, it's like I can see why women would come at you because you're sitting from your ivory tower like, oh, why don't y'all keep y'all hair nice and clean and steam your carpet and also make your men bacon from France. Like nobody does that shit. Like you wake up, you get a part tart.
Nah, Nyla says cans food. She like literally cans her own food. And she shoots a gun. So women are doing this.
Women shoot a gun.
I don't.
Every woman in the hood can almost shoot a gun. That ain't nothing new. Canned goods. That's you go to the doggone the church and go get some canned goods. Yeah, we all do that.
Shut up.
Told you.
I don't think that your perception of life being gullah really counts.
Oh, my gullah life don't count. See how you just count?
Does not count. You talking about we go to the church?
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad because you locked them in.
At their church. Nobody in that chat room has ever got a canned good at their church, unless it came from a store.
How many people have had canned goods at a church?
Push one if you've ever gone to church and had fresh canned goods from somebody.
Go ahead. I'm going to tell you, they're going to hit one for that.
Wait, the chat is okay.
One.
We need our own radio show. ZLV, shut up. Oh, ZLV, really? You got fresh canned goods, ZLV. I trust.
One
and pizza. Tyrone.
People are putting one. You can go to churches and get canned goods. They do give you food. I tell you, I don't know what world do you live in. Like, I wish you would come out that tower and live amongst the people.
You're liars. Y'all need to shut up.
That's twice you lost. That's twice you lost in one day. Please don't go further.
No more chat polls. No more chat polls.
Why not? These are the best.
They disagree with you.
Okay, I'm gonna ask one more question. How many men are good guys and try to get a good female and they overlooked you? Put a 1.
You didn't get if she wasn't a good female if she overlooked you.
No. How many good guys have been overlooked by a female because they were good guys?
But we love the good guys. The good guys are the best guys.
One. There's ones are coming out again.
ZLV pushed 2. ZLV 2 wasn't even an answer.
He put 1. Yo, somebody in the one, bro. It's realistic. I'm very realistic. How many females? How many guys do you know have been overlooked by a guy because they were a good guy, not a bad boy? Put a 1.
Vicky said it's not a good question. Soto, you know what? I'm gonna take your wrench.
Mr. said, Irene, I do agree with some things you say, but other things are ivory tower statements, like he said. I told y'all she'd be in her ivory tower looking down on us, like throwing us like crumpet biscuits and tea. Like, girl, you dress like that, you whore. Put your clothes on.
No, that's what people say to me. Don't. I don't do that to anyone else. That is so funny. Y'all little traitorous chat room people.
Bad boys, females, like, yep, thank you. One, more ones. Thank you.
Well, Cocoa Butter, we're not going to be bashing Nyla Says in my channel.
Y'all leave Nyla Says. Leave Nyla Says, even though most guys always want to see Nyla Says.
I'm going to take that out. I don't want that in here. Don't do that. That's not cool. That's not cool at all.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go. Drink more beer and smoke cigarettes with bad choices with my life.
Well, peace out.
Huh? I feel good, but I beat you twice today.
You know what? These people.
Hey, can I keep this video so that way we can keep it so I can show it on my channel?
What did you say?
I'm going to show it on my channel that I beat Irene.
What do you want me to do with the video?
No, just keep it so that way I can show everybody that I beat you.
I'm going to delete it.
Why?
Because I'm not going to keep up a video where my whole chat room turned on me. You traitors.
Irene, that's not very ladylike admitting when you lost. Ladies can lose with some type of class.
First and foremost, I didn't lose. Okay.
You did
So,
twice today.
they were just
Don't
rolling.
y'all practice putting books on y'all head and learn how to sleep around like rice and shit?
Actually, my girls do put books on their head. My eldest daughter, she is very, very satisfied.
And then
But I didn't tell her
she
that.
puts books
She
on her
just
daughter's
walked out
head
with
to teach
her
them how to balance
yeah,
and
probably
keep
do.
posture.
She just
I told y'all,
walked
man,
out with-
you're breeding your daughters to be princesses for men. You're breeding your daughters. Just know that you're breeding your daughters.
I'm gonna reject all your ivory tower comments, y'all.
You're breeding your daughter. Who breeds their daughters for men? Irene does.
No, I breed them to be good women.
You breed them to be good women for a man.
Well, if they're going to be
You're
a
breeding-
mother, if they're going to be a mother, and if they get married, they will be excellent women for their.
So
husband.
they say, "Mommy, I don't want to have 6 of his babies. He wants to have 6 children." You're like, "Well, you're a woman. That is your job and your duty."
Well, one of my daughters wants to adopt a lot of children, so
That is not part of your programming.
it's not going to be my problem, though, right? Because that's going to be between her and her husband. I'm not going to be a busybody mom.
You will. You can't have
Oh no, I'm not going to be a busybody mom. I won't do that. I'll be like a watching grandbabies mom. Although I know my man is going to want to travel. He wants to travel now. Like we already have a trip planned and I just got here not even 2 weeks
I'm
ago.
going to have a school for concubines so that way they can come for refuge and learn how to.
Shut up. You're just trying to tick me off. You're just trying to make me mad. You know I can't actually beat you up. So that's why you're
But
doing this.
if there was a school for concubines, wouldn't you want to have them come to you and you can like teach them like how to be women and how to get like Mrs. Yvette, when does thou opens thou leg for man? After third date when he spends over $90 and gets you a chicken and shrimp dinner.
Oh, wow.
I feel like it's a pretty good deal.
Okay, you're drunk. We're clear.
I'm just saying.
That one beer got to your head.
All right, y'all. I'll see y'all.
Bye to the chat. Bye, man of tomorrow, sleepyhead.